welcome to another episode of the Who Dat Jedi podcast. This is episode 117, and we are the Who Dat Jedi Council. I'm Aaron, and with me as always is Dave and Fredo. How are we doing, guys?
Doing okay.
Yeah, some better than others. We do want to have a little bit of a apology right up front because Dave and I have both been sick. Dave more recently than me, so if you're hearing any hacking or, general whatever, it's coming from one of us, so we apologize. There's nothing we can do about it, but
also that's a reason for the delay in this episode. So
I thought we were waiting because today we're recording it on a Saturday afternoon. It is actually George Lucas's birthday.
Lucas's birthday.
So happy birthday to the maker, the guy who started all of this. Do you ever wonder if he just sits around and goes, "What in the hell did I do?" You know what I mean?
Yes.
He wrote a movie, and and all the dominoes that have fallen since. Do you ever think he just goes, "Oh my goodness," I thought about that with Jim Swearingen, the guy from Kenner that I met at the collectibles show on the North Shore, and he was walking around looking at all the action figures. And I mean, yeah, it could be argued that he is responsible for about 98% of what we're seeing at that collectible. It's like, you ever stop and go, man, because I made one action figure or 12 action figures, this whole thing went. Anyway, I don't know.
The merchandise, they went hand in hand. I mean, they really did, because like the interest was there. It's like, and George understood that the interest would be there, which is why he held the merchandising fees back.
There was
for
really
himself.
no reason for him to. There's really no evidence for him to have that thought. There wasn't a market. I mean,
he had to have a lot of confidence that this thing was gonna take off.
I think he was talking about like T-shirts and posters.
Yeah, toys were not a big deal back then. I mean, there were, but nothing to the level that they are today. Just thinking, to that question, there's an alternate universe where Star Wars just became a minor footnote in George Lucas, the film auteur's career. Like, he goes on to make other experimental movies along the way, and everybody goes like, "Oh yeah, he won the Oscar for this experimental movie." He became something like Terrence Malick or somebody like that instead of George Lucas, the creator of Star Wars.
I also want to apologize if my dogs start barking in the middle of this. They're sitting underneath my desk looking out the window, and there are other dogs running around across the street. So we might have all break loose here. Who knows?
So you mean is it like Family Guy when Brian's in the car? Hey, there's another dog.
Hey, you're a dog. I'm another dog. Yeah. But actually, there's a German Shepherd across the street, so that's kind of enjoyable. Anyway, so sorry about this. No, okay. Well, the Who Dat Jedi podcast. We got to talk a little Who Dat here, guys, because I will say, I do not dislike LSU. All right, everybody, I do not dislike LSU. I'm not an LSU fan because I did not go to LSU. I went someplace else. But all of you LSU fans have to be really excited because the Saints have signed Tyrann Mathieu and Jarvis Landry.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right. See, Luna's really excited because she's a New Orleans dog. That's enough. Anyway.
It's actually, see, here's the thing. Historically, the Saints under Sean Payton, it's not that they didn't like LSU. They seem to have preferences to like Ohio State and Georgia in terms of whether they would go, and a lot of small schools. But I think for a lot of this, it's just simply the reality of these are good players at positions that we need somebody to come in and give us something instrumental. We lost Marcus Williams, so Tyrann Mathieu as a replacement makes sense. We had a wide receiver room that was so down for options that we were starting lots of guys off the street last year. So now we got Michael Thomas, Chris Olave, Jarvis Landry, and then Deonta Hardy and Marquez Callaway as your fourth, fifth, and if you want to add Tre'Quan Smith as your sixth option. So there's a much stronger wide receiver room now.
Yeah, somebody said that like the top 3 positions at wide receiver have been completely replaced without clearing out your previous top 3 from last year. They're still on the roster. So in that sense alone, you're so much better off than you were, at least on paper. I think Landry's on the wrong side of 30. I'm not sure how much he's going to give you at this stage, but I also feel like I'm happy for people who are happy. This is like locals are,
they collectively wet their pants.
I mean, it was so happy, and I'm like, that's awesome. Like, yay, rally around.
Except they got greedy right away, and they started calling for Odell Beckham Jr. And it's like,
yeah, I don't think
you want to see our receiver room blow up totally. It's like put Michael Thomas, Jarvis Landry, and Odell Beckham Jr. and then, Chris Olave in the same locker room, and let's watch all heck break loose. So
the safety swap is the more interesting move to me, because I think at this stage of his career, I'd rather have Marcus Williams, but I like Matthew's still like a really interesting stopgap. Like, he was performing at a really high level last year.
What's always been interesting about Tyrann Mathieu for me is, Dave, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, he's always had a nose for the ball. Oh, yeah. In a way, like he's never been like okay, he's a good tackler, he's a good safety, but he's never been on the level necessarily of like a Ed Reed or Ronnie Lott, to me at least. He's not like the top level safety. But even somebody like Marcus Williams is like the opposite. Marcus Williams does everything well, but in some ways, Tyrann Mathieu has a nose for the football that reminds me of Sammy Knight, that he just knows how to be right near where something's going to happen, and he comes away with the football. And I don't know that you can coach that, because he's had that since LSU. He's had it with Kansas City. So here's hoping he brings that to the Saints. And, you live if he makes a mistake or if he doesn't get a tackle, because he can give you that one moment in every game where he can flip the field for you.
Yeah, you're totally buying into that one moment that you're just describing with him, because like he will give you a couple of moments a game that are game changing, and like you said, he just has that nose for it, and it's been that way ever since college, and I understand why everybody's excited about him. And I think that'll pan out. It is really interesting though, because it's going to be a shift, because the defense was basically rock solid for the most part last year, and I think it'll be a little more up and down when you got the Honey Badger out there.
Well, I am. I'm sorry. I'm Mr. Pessimist. My sister has been throwing things at me from Texas, and Brittany's been throwing things at me because I remember when we were all excited about Jairus Byrd. I remember when we were all excited about. No, don't make that face, Fredo. Everybody's excited about somebody throughout the years, and then they ended up being the biggest waste of money that the Saints have ever spent. Now, these guys, they should produce, but it's all about, can we stay healthy, and anyway.
They didn't break the bank on either of these guys.
That was going to be my point. Is unlike if, say for example, Jarvis Landry and or Tyrann Mathieu don't perform or don't live up to hype, there's nothing tying them to the Saints that they can't say, okay, thank you for your time, we'll cut you and we'll move on next offseason. There's Jairus Byrd was a millstone around the team for a while because he couldn't produce, and then there was no way you could get somebody better on the field.
I will be over the moon once they start doing something on the field. So that's all I'll say. Anyway, don't at me on Twitter. Like I said, I have nothing against LSU. I have nothing against these players. It's just it is exciting to see other people excited, because it does seem like, man, it's Saints.
One day we're gonna need the list of schools that you do have something against.
That's right. Dave's family has 2 of them. But anyway. So
that's what I thought I podcast.
Let's do some Star Wars trivia. But tonight's episode, or today's episode, whatever it is, whenever you're listening to this, Entertainment Weekly has a list of. They put it out on May the 4th. They put it out on Star Wars Day, and it was the top 100 characters of Star Wars. rather controversial list. So we're going to go through that and get Dave and Fredo haven't really seen it, right, guys? Okay, I've looked through it and I refreshed myself this morning, and I was like, I was like getting kind of irate at 5 o'clock with some of these things. But let's start off with some trivia. Fredo, I'm going to start with you. What color is the bolt of a stormtrooper's blaster when set on stun? What color
I'm gonna go with
the bolt of a stormtrooper's blaster when set on stun?
Is it blue?
Is blue, and it makes little circles. Yeah.
Yeah. I remember the circle. I didn't know if it was blue or more towards purple.
And how BA was it that set for stun, and then Leia just murders one right off, just her blaster set to kill. Anyway, all right. Ooh. Sorry, Dave. I have a rule that I have to go with the first one I see.
Alrighty.
This might stump all of us. What species is made up of members of the closely related Otola and Ankura races? What species is made up of members of the closely related Otola and Ankura races?
I'm just going to take a shot in the dark and say Trandoshans.
Not Trandoshans. Fredo, do you have a guess?
I'll guess out of the dark, Mon Calamari.
No, it's Gungans. Is that why Boss Nass and Jar Jar Binks look so different?
You got me.
I don't know. That stumped me. I'm sorry, Dave. That was not a setup. All right. So to me, how many systems does the enraged Mos Eisley Cantina patron claim to have a death sentence in?
I got the death sentence on.
It makes you wonder why. There's at least twice that this number is referenced, because it's on 12 systems. Yeah, and the Millennium Falcon made the Kessel Run in less than 12 parsecs.
Is there something important about the number 12?
Numerologists, will you please comment on us at Whodat Jedi Podcast, whatever we are on Twitter. Let us know what's the deal with 12 in the Star Wars universe. All right, Fredo, do we have some news?
We got a couple of bits of news, actually a number of them, but we'll go through them quickly. First bit of news that actually came out Monday was actually from the Star Wars official Instagram account, which told us that Ahsoka, an original series, began production on Monday. And they have a director's chair with Ahsoka's name in the back, the name for the show, and then a cowboy hat, which one is to presume is for one Trapper Wolf, aka Dave Filoni.
So hooray! It's they're doing something. Okay,
that's a thing.
My one question would be: do you think, they say they started production, but how much of the production that they did for Book of Boba Fett and season 3 of Mando do you think is just gonna roll right into this?
All right, so
they're just swapping name cards and whatnot.
Did you watch? Okay, so it's interesting. We need to find out when they are recording some of these things, because in the Disney Gallery Book of Boba Fett thing, did you guys watch that?
No,
I haven't had a chance.
So Rosario Dawson is interviewed, and she said in her script it says Plo Koon.
Right.
So so her filming of the Book of Boba Fett, that thing with Luke Skywalker, had to be going on simultaneously, or at least before the release of the ending of season 2, because how do you because they said when they released season 2 that it was like, Plo Koon was in the script and everything. Why do you use that same code name if everybody knows that Luke Skywalker? So anyway, so yeah, it'd just be interesting to see when they're filming all of these things.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of those things. I think like some of the principals will just tell you like, oh, we're filming, or we've been filming, or we're about to start filming, and then you find out later that like maybe not, or their agent didn't have the right information. So it's all a little bit fuzzy. So it is appreciated on my part when I do see them put something official out that says, like, yes, this is happening now. Because then you can kind of set your expectations. Okay, well, let's start the clock. Maybe a year from now will be when we'll see that show.
Well, and I don't know how much bleed over from the Mandoverse is going to be in this show, because this sounds like it's going to be a Rebels season 5 type of a thing. This is all going to be about the Ezra and Thrawn thing. I mean, if they have the Mandalorians show up, it's going to be kind of awkward. But anyway,
and again, is their intention with Ahsoka to have it be multiple seasons, long running, Rosario playing this role for a long time, maybe transitioning into feature films eventually? How big do they want this thing to be? Because they could milk this story for quite a lot. You don't need to have her in her pursuit of Thrawn encounter him until anywhere near the end of the story necessarily. That in and of itself is a story that people are interested in seeing. Her finding Ezra, her finding Thrawn, getting some resolution to the end of Rebels. And yet they could also play it the other way, which is like, well, we'll get that out of the way as fast as we possibly can in the interest of telling a completely different story. So they have a lot of freedom here, and they can make it as big or as small as they want to make it. It's kind of interesting to sort of sit here and speculate. I personally think, like, with this particular set of characters in this particular story, I think you go big. I like these characters a lot, and I would like to see a lot of them. And it's not like a situation where you think with Obi-Wan, where he's sort of pinned into this little box on Tatooine, where he has this role. He has to guard Luke. Well, okay, he could have side adventures, right? But it doesn't necessarily lend itself to some big, grand, galaxy-defining thing. And whereas this, you could extrapolate it outward.
Absolutely. And to your point, it's I said, yeah, it's going to be the search for Ezra and Thrawn, but I've also said on this show before that I really think that there's going to be a greater story of her re-becoming a Jedi. Because again, in the end of Rise of Skywalker, she's amongst the Force ghosts. She's amongst all the Jedi who are talking to Rey. So, when last though we left Ahsoka, she is no longer a Jedi. So that's going to have to happen. Plus, you also got now Hayden Christensen back in the, in the fold. So, there's going to be. You're right. There's a lot of stories. We'll find out.
Yeah, they can go.
They're
They
filming,
can go a number of places. By the way, there was a whole lot of speaking of Obi-Wan, been a big press tour right now. I don't know if you've been noticing anything. Like they've been out doing interviews. They've had Hayden and Ewan and forget the lady's name that's playing the Inquisitor.
Moses.
Anyway, yeah, Moses. Yeah, thank you. And then so it makes we were talking about Celebration. Makes me think more than likely we're gonna see them at Celebration. But speaking of Obi-Wan, right quick, I did want to say they were also interviewing Natalie Holt, who is the composer. I just kind of wanted to mention that they had an interview with the Hollywood Reporter. She's composed stuff like for Loki, and she's doing Batgirl. And apparently she mentioned that two things that might interest her. Number one, remember, John Williams wrote the theme for the show. So she says she got the musical sheet with Obi-Wan's theme song autographed by John Williams. So she says she's got that frame in her office.
Oh, man.
I'm just thinking, how much would you pay for that, Aaron?
Yeah, right. That would be something I would like to have. I mean, a piece of, even if it's like 2 measures of music autographed by John Williams. Yeah, that'd be something cool to have.
So mentioning that, she mentions that the differences between Loki and Obi-Wan. She says Deborah Chow gave her instructions that she says for the music for Obi-Wan, she's like, he's in the desert, he's lost, he's alone. And it's like anything for his theme would just be small, crumbling, fragmented. Then it would just grow out as it goes in his journey. So there was an interesting, she says, she kind of juxtaposes herself to where John Williams started. He says, there's lots of different characters in the show, and I did also write music themes for planets. In addition, though, there is a Stormtroopers theme. So that's all I can say right now. So you're going to get your own theme song, Aaron, for the 501st.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
So it's, yeah, it's a, so it seems interesting. They're ramping up all the stuff because
here's Old Man Aaron. Here's my problem with it. I don't mind. It's kind of like writing the theme for, Han Solo gets his theme. John Williams writes the theme for Han Solo in the Solo film, and that's all well and good. But then you never hear it in. It's not like you're going back to the original trilogy and you're going to plug in that theme. Then okay, so the Stormtroopers get their theme. Okay, that's all well and good. But then that theme's in no other movie, and so it's like it ceases to be a theme. It's like your theme music. It's like watch WWE. Your theme music is when you come on stage, not when you come on stage once. You know what I mean? That's why it's my and I'm not criticizing Natalie Holt or anybody else, but it gets back into how people really think that that they know what operatic techniques are, and just because you write a piece of music does not make it a theme. It's how you use it, so and then if you go back to the original trilogy and then start plugging in this music, then I'll be even more mad. So anyway, go ahead.
No, but it made me think right now, the article we're going to go over with the 100 characters list. How many of those have a theme that you immediately think of and recognize as theirs? Whether it's somebody like Jabba or Vader or anybody.
Well, I don't think Jabba has a theme.
But that's my point. It's, I don't even have to tell you what Jabba's theme is. The moment I say Jabba's theme, it plays in your head.
No, I'm saying Jabba doesn't have a theme.
He does not?
I'm pretty sure he doesn't. Go find
Does he have that?
I mean, again, it's really, that's a whole other show about how maybe we'd had that show once before, I think, but
no, we talked about it, but I'd love to get you to maybe we get another musician on for that episode and just go into it, because I love the music of Star Wars, and I think that's one of its biggest selling points, but there's so much there that we can talk about in terms of
Yoda's got a theme, Vader's got a theme that came in Empire, Emperor's got a theme, the Force theme and Skywalker theme are kind of interchangeable.
Leia's got a theme.
Leia does have a theme.
Let's not
ruin the show. This is a whole other show.
Yeah,
this is a whole other show. And then I think we should name that tune. It's like find Han Solo's theme. Can you hum that one? It's like, see what I mean? It's kind of like, it's great that we got John Williams to compose something for a movie, but just, I don't know. Let's move on. So
okay,
another show at some point.
So just right quick, since I mentioned Celebration, yes, you're going to be able to watch some commentary and some of the stuff happening at Celebration live via YouTube and StarWars.com.
Good.
Star Wars, they announced that May 26th or 29, they got Andy Gutierrez, Anthony Carboni, Christina Ariel, Hector Navarro, Jordan Hembrow, and Christian Braver, all kind of hosting a panel and commentary, and they'll probably have interviews and other stuff happening as Celebration's happening. So if you can't make it, you at least get a taste of it online.
The 26th, I'll be driving back from Disney World, so Brittany will probably be driving, so I'll just be watching YouTube the whole way then, huh? So
there you go.
Okay.
There you go. Right quick, they've been interviewing. Okay, talking about interviews. They asked Bryce Dallas Howard, who's coming up in the new Jurassic World movie, if she'd love to do a Star Wars movie, direct one. So she says, her quote is, "Oh my goodness, I think it would take someone asking me." So in other words, she's not saying no, but if you want her to do it, you gotta go ask her. And I'm just like, Why is this a thing? Why not just ask her and get it going?
I wonder if that shows the hand of how many actual films there are in development, which means not many, because there's not many people being talked about. You know, everybody wants a certain people to direct a Star Wars film, but maybe there aren't enough Star Wars films to go around.
Yeah, or
Yeah.
project in general, right?
Yeah, and I also feel like developing a project from the ground up is a different task than directing something that's already been created. Um, and I think that we all love Bryce Dallas Howard's work that we've seen in Star Wars, but I think it's all pretty much directorial. I'm not sure that
Mm-hmm.
she contributed to any of the scripting or writing. Um, and so,
Yeah.
like, just given that, I think like this quote makes perfect sense. Like if you want to give me a project, hand me a project to work on and ask me to do it, I will happily do it. But she's not. She doesn't necessarily have an idea yet that she wants to bring to the table. That's how I read that. But um,
So let me jump off of that and into the final bit of news that I have, which is interesting because they were interviewing Michael Waldron, who was the showrunner for Loki, wrote Doctor Strange 2. And he's the guy currently writing Kevin Feige's to be produced Star Wars movie. Actually, they were talking to him about it, and says it's been reported, and I've talked about this, that another writer, Eric Martin, is taking over as head writer for season 2 of Loki. He was my second in command through season 1. Obviously, I've been busy off writing this little Star Wars movie as well. That's going to be made by another guy named Kevin, but I think Loki in season 2 is going to be fantastic. So he's confirming that Loki season 2 is coming. He's not writing it. His second in command is writing it because he's currently writing Kevin Feige's Star Wars movie. So you got a producer, you got a writer. If you need a director, and there's one I saying, all you need to do is ask. I don't know. Maybe I'm making 2 + 2 = 22.
Maybe.
It seems like it worked to me.
Yeah, you got people working on a script over here, and you got a person over here who's a really capable director. So I don't know. Um, I'm all for more Star Wars, and I'm all for more talented, creative people being involved in that process. So
it will be very interesting to see what we learn next week.
That's kind of the catch. It's
I think
you're gonna get some announcements we're not expecting. I'm hoping.
I would, it. Yeah, I would. My guess is that it's either going to be feast or famine next week. We're either going to get like, oh my god, blown away, or they're not going to. They're just going to talk about the stuff we know.
Well, May the 4th was a bit of famine, so maybe they're saving the feast for them.
Yeah, so like, and of course, you guys know on Wednesday I'm heading to Disney World, and I'll be able to finally see Galaxy's Edge.
Woo!
So,
it's a small world after all.
Shut up. I had to call Disney to just do something for our reservations, and I was only on hold for 10 minutes, but it was 10 minutes of every version of It's a Small World. And in every genre that you could come up with, and I was about ready to poke my own eyes out. But
are you gonna ride it?
Oh yeah, we always do. It's one of those things. I go on Small World with Britt, and she goes on the teacups with me. So
okay.
That's
funny that I just hearing people complain about it, but I'm gonna ride it anyway.
It's just... yeah. I mean. Can find alcohol somewhere. Hey, let's get to the top 100. And I'm going to put that in air quotes. Top 100 characters of Star Wars. It gets controversial right off the bat. We're going to go 10 at a time, and like I said, just kind of pause and see if there's any what WTF moments. How about that? What the Force. But
these aren't the droids you're looking for.
These aren't the droids we're looking for.
And maybe some that you think are maybe pick one that's like, no, he doesn't deserve to be that low, or he doesn't deserve to be that high, or whatever. And if there's nothing to talk about, then we just move on. And then when we get to the top 10, we're going to see if Fredo and Dave can guess who's in the top 10, or maybe guess the top 3. It's kind of surprising. And I have no idea what their criteria is, folks. But the article is on Entertainment Weekly's website, so you can go find it. So here's 100 to 91. At 100, we have Wicket. At 99, we have Moff Gideon's Scout Troopers. These are the guys that beat up Baby Yoda. 98 is the Bendu from Rebels. 97 is Elon Sleaze-Bogano. 96 is Dexter Jetster. 95 is Moff Gideon. 94 is Babu Frick. 93 is Sy Snoodles. 92 is Captain Phasma. And 91 and 90, so we got to put them together, are Orca and Flix from Resistance. Star Wars actually first gay couple. And that's not a joke, guys. I mean, it's...
Yeah.
The only one I have any issue with is Wicket being at the bottom of the list. He should be higher, just because how impactful he is to Return of the Jedi.
Yeah, the good old Sleaze-Bago is like a one-trick pony, so I'm not sure he even belongs in the top 100 at all.
Right? That's what I was thinking, too.
Bendu is a really kind of interesting character to me, but I also... and maybe, like, not... He hints at a kind of importance that extends above and beyond the appearances that we've seen so far,
and
which
never pays off, really. It's
right.
It was a lot of promise that never paid off. Yeah.
Which, so for me, like personally, I might even put that character higher because I'd like to see a lot more of it. So
the one that made me go, are Moff Gideon's Scout Troopers.
Yeah.
So, anyway, all right. Well, let's go 89 to 81. So 89 is FN2199. This is the guy who yells traitor.
Traitor.
88 is the Grand Inquisitor. 87 is Ki-Adi Mundi. 86 is General Maximilian Veers. General Veers from Empire Strikes Back, folks.
Veers watch.
85 is Maz Kanata. 84 is Miggs Mayfeld from The Mandalorian. 83 and 82 are Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru. 81, Wrecker from Bad Batch.
I'm wondering how if the list would shift for Uncle Owen, Aunt Beru, and the Grand Inquisitor after Obi-Wan comes out. I get the sense those could be higher if this list is done afterwards.
So I'm just going to read this to you, by the way. It says, our Gold Squadron group of obsessives selected and ranked the top 100 on-screen Star Wars characters ever. Our rankings are based on folks seen in the original movies or TV streaming shows and do not include characters who have only appeared in video games or part of either expanded universe canon or legacy books. So it doesn't say how they judged what their criteria was.
It was just a bunch of people got in a room and they voted, I guess.
Probably drinking, yeah.
Yeah. So Owen and Beru are really important, but they don't necessarily, again, do a lot on screen, so I can understand why they're as low as they are. I'm really sort of confused by Wrecker. Because immediately my brain starts going, okay, well, which of those characters from the Bad Batch are going to be deemed important enough to include in this list, and how do you rank them apart from one another? I don't know.
The Bad Batch are kind of like the Constructicons, right? I mean,
yeah.
I mean,
yeah, we need Devastator, right?
Reference,
Yeah, no, they're Devastator. We need them all together. So okay, so we got Wrecker. Are there going to be more? I don't know.
All right. Well, are you guys ready for 80 to 71? Anything on the list yet that's made you like want to throw something at the wall?
Not yet.
Okay. So 80 is General Hux. 79 is Duchess Satine Kryze from the Clone Wars, Obi-Wan's girlfriend. If you don't know what I'm talking about, listeners, go watch the Clone Wars. Obi-Wan had a girlfriend. 78, Shmi Skywalker. 77, Saw Gerrera. 76 is Zam Wesell, the bounty hunter from Attack of the Clones. 75 is Bo-Katan Kryze from Clone Wars and Mandalorian. 74 is DJ, Benicio del Toro's character from The Last Jedi. 73 is IG-11 from The Mandalorian. 72 is Plo Koon. And 71 is Sebulba. And it'd be interesting if you change the word instead of 100 top Star Wars characters to 100 most important. That'd be a far different list.
They would be different lists.
The only thing you ever get of Plo Koon is from the Clone Wars. You're not gonna. I mean, Plo Koon otherwise in the movies is just a dude who sits in a chair or a dude gets shot out of the sky. That's all you ever see of Plo Koon. And in the Clone Wars, he's awesome.
What does Zam Wesell do?
He's the bounty hunter that gets chased by Obi-Wan and Anakin. And
I think he's talking more existentially.
Yeah, but that's it. That's it.
She serves to trigger an action sequence, is the target of that action sequence, and then does at the end of that action sequence.
So the write-up is, sure, this elite Claudite assassin isn't particularly great at her job. First, she fails to murder Padme by blowing up her starship, and then she gets caught sneaking killer bugs into Padme's apartment, leading to a high-speed chase through Coruscant. Surely there has to be a more efficient assassination method than death by bug. But she's also one of the most memorable bounty hunters in the Star Wars galaxy thanks to her shape-shifting abilities and excellent piloting skills.
But again, how is she more memorable than Shmi Skywalker?
And I'm sorry.
or Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru, for that matter, should maybe rank ahead of Shmi because they did it first. You know, the family members getting murdered. I don't know. Also, now I'm starting to get fired up about this list now because Zam Wesell.
We're not even halfway.
But also in terms of bounty hunter, I mean, we can make a whole list of bounty hunters, a top 10 list of bounty hunters, and not have Zam Wesell in it.
Hey, by the way, it looks like we may be getting 4-LOM in Kenobi.
Oh, we're getting 4-LOM.
If it turns out to be 5-LOM, I'm gonna be ticked. It's like IG-11. It's like IG-11. It's like you should have just made it IG-88 for the love of all that's holy.
IG-22. Anyway.
All right, so here we go. Starting at
Four Loko. It's got to be Four Loko.
That's right. Starting at number 70, Ezra Bridger from Rebels. 69, Malakili, the Rancor Keeper. 68, Greef Karga from Mandalorian, Chubbs. 67, Biggs Darklighter. 66, Neon Numb. 65, Jango Fett. 64, L337. 63 is Admiral Piet. 62 is Sabine Wren. 61 is Peli Motto.
What?
That's the lady from Mandalorian in the Dave's looking confused. That's
the mechanic.
The mechanic, right?
Okay.
The mechanic from the Mandalorian.
Oh, okay.
So this is one of my things. It's like
Astra, Sabine, this low. No.
Well, and Admiral Piet is like the only surviving, Imperial admiral. He doesn't get killed by Vader.
Yeah.
Here was my thing is Malakili the Rancor Keeper. All you ever see
should be 100
is he cries when the Rancor dies. That's it.
Oh, you're talking for a moment I thought you meant Danny Trejo.
How is he higher than Wicket? Wicket helped take down the Empire.
I'm with Fredo. I'd take Danny Trejo over the original guy.
So, Yeah,
No.
we're getting a little controversial now. Uh, and I don't think Pelimoto needs to be this high because that character in the Mandalorian, as much as it's fine, except it seems like when Don Knotts would guest host have a role on some show, it's always Don Knotts. It wasn't. It just it sticks out. It sticks out like a sore thumb in that it's fun, but it just sticks out as a character.
You're gonna put her anywhere between 75 and 100 and been fine. The only concern here is you're putting her ahead of some major characters in the canon, and it's like, what the heck?
Like Wicket. I think the title of this show, Dave, should be Wicket Got Hosed. How is Wicket 100 and Pelimoto is 61?
I don't know.
Hold on, let me go read the entry for Wicket, and I wonder if it's because we have some like Ewok hate. Your Return of the Jedi opinion might be determined by your generation. The Gen X crowd isn't necessarily a fan of Endor's tiny, fuzzy inhabitants. I take exception to that. But millennials of a certain age hold the Ewoks in high regard, and therefore the film in general. We could spin this out into an entire Endor-centric think piece, but the essence is, if you care about the Ewoks, you care about Wicket, the chief among them. Actor Warwick Davis has made his mark on Star Wars legacy by acting a concept so out there as a talking teddy bear and making him iconic and cute as a button. Like I said, I take issue with the fact they say Gen Xers don't like the Ewoks.
I can see where some people might think, wait a minute, they were controversial at the time and
They
remain
were
so
not
for some.
controversial when you were 10 years old. I am sorry. I'm Gen X. I was 10 years old when Return of the Jedi came out.
And they were fine.
They were not controversial. They're controversial to 35-year-olds. Sorry.
Right.
Get off my lawn.
But to the point of, even if you had an issue with the Ewoks as a concept that's supposed to giving us Wookiees, the fact is Wicket was central to Return of the Jedi. You needed Wicket.
Yeah.
He's the one who brings Leia and the rebels into contact with them, and they become the army that defeats the Empire. So the fact that you put him
No, you guys are all wrong. Zam Wessel is way more important a character than Wicket.
Hey, all right. Hey, Dave, guess who number 60 is?
I got no idea.
Bossk. Bossk. And talk about, and here's the thing. Well, I guess you get a lot of Bossk in the Clone Wars. If we're just going with the movies, you don't get anything of Bossk except he just looks snarly. But in the Clone Wars, you get a lot of him. So I can see him being higher than Zam Wessel. At least Zam Wessel did more than Bossk in the movies. But anyway.
A little bit, yeah.
59, Count Dooku. 58, Galen Erso. 57, He Don't Miss No Gig, Max Rebo. 56, Queel. That's the Ugnaught from The Mandalorian.
I have spoken.
55, Greedo. 54, Asajj Ventress. 53, Chopper, the droid from Rebels. 52, Fennec Shand from The Mandalorian and also The Bad Batch. And 51, Bib Fortuna. I am surprised Greedo is... I guess Greedo gets a short amount of screen time as well, but without Greedo, you don't get really you don't get who Han Solo is.
Yeah, no, I think I'd probably put Greedo right around here.
And Max Rebo gets higher than Wicket. Max Rebo plays the piano in the background.
Yeah. I mean,
this is getting a little ridiculous now. I mean, because it's like
I don't miss no gig. He don't miss no gig. So
right.
I was a Max Rebo fan as a kid, right? Like, oh, look at this blue elephant guy. This is cool. But Wicket was a central character. I knew that Max Rebo was the guy that in the band. He was...
and Wicket was in all the merch. That's the other thing.
Yeah.
Like I remember it, like if you bought the Return of the Jedi lunchbox, the thermos was Wicket and R2, or just Wicket.
So first of all, it's kind of interesting because I think I mean, Chopper at 53. I at first did not like Chopper in Rebels, and ended up now I have his action figure sitting right here. He became one of my favorite characters. I mean, like as far as droids are concerned, I think it's R2 at the top, and Chopper is second, and BB-8's third. I mean, that's it's such a neat character, such a thought out character as well. Um, so,
I'm 100% in favor of Chopper being as high as he is. He's amazing.
All right, well here we go. At 50, coming in at 50, we have Grand Moff Tarkin, who for probably the first 5 years of my Star Wars life I thought was Grandma Tarkin. But 49. 49 is Paige Tico.
Not Rose, but Paige.
Paige. At 49. Well, okay, let me get through I paused for dramatic effect there. 48, Mon Mothma. 47, Cad Bane. 46, General Grievous. 45, Wedge Antilles. 44, The Client. 43, Salacious B. Crumb. 42, Orson Krennic. And 41, Bail Organa. I'm going to go back to the Wicket thing.
Salacious Crumb too is also. I mean, like, what are we doing here?
Those are people who just seen the Mandalorian season 1, episode 1. Saw Salacious Crumb on the spin and went, "Oh."
I put Salacious Crumb higher than a lot of the things that I've seen here. I mean, as far as interesting characters he brought comedic effect when you need the comedic effect. In Jabba's palace, it was.
You got him in there with like General Grievous and Krennic. Like,
yeah, he's surrounded by the Client and Orson Krennic.
No,
but however, the one I have a big problem with is Paige Tico. I'm sorry, she was cannon fodder at the beginning of The Last Jedi, and we're putting her ahead of Bosk, and
Uncle Owen,
Beru, and Wicket. And,
I almost said something when you listed DJ earlier because I was like,
yeah. I mean, talk about something that never paid off.
Yeah, I was like kind of mad on that character, but to begin with, but like she's like way less important than DJ was, to the overall plot of that movie.
Now let me see here. Let me read. Okay, Luke, Leia, Rey, Finn, and Poe may be the top billed heroes of The Last Jedi, but for 2 pulse-pounding minutes, Paige Tico is a true star. A Resistance bombardier on a mission to take down the First Order dreadnought. Paige I'm sorry. They're describing Randy Quaid's part in Independence Day.
Not even.
Because
at least Randy Quaid has an arc. Poor Paige got a scene. That was it.
I will say also, I think Cad Bane at 47 is a travesty. He should be up towards the top of this list, because that is an awesome Star Wars character. And I'm not talking about the Mandalorian, what we saw in the Book of Boba Fett. I'm sorry, I'm talking about in the Clone Wars. I think that deserves to be higher than in the 40s.
I'm good with him where he is, because if you think where Django is in relation to Django, he's about where I would have him. He's a little bit higher, couple 20 spots higher or so. But yeah, just Paige Tico, that one's just out of left field. That's a person's personal favorite character who somebody listed her in their personal top 10 or something. And
let me one up it then here. We're going to move on to from 40 through 31. Number 40 is okay, Cobb Vanth. Number 39, here we go, Lobot. Number 38, Jyn Erso. 37, Captain Rex. 36, Qui-Gon Jinn. 35, Finn. 34, Boba Fett. 33, Kanan Jarrus. 32, Cassian Andor. 31, BB-8.
Yeah,
How do you
Lobot
put
is like
Lobot in
yeah,
that spot?
it's like you're playing the which one does not go, which one doesn't fit on this list. Yeah, because you got some big characters there, some fan favorites, some central characters to the entire saga. Lobot put him 20 places down, and this is where Wicked should have gone.
According to Entertainment Weekly, the Bespin cyborg doesn't have a lot to say, but he keeps Cloud City functioning. As Lando Calrissian's right-hand man, Lobot is silent administrator of the whole city, rolling around town with his signature bald head and flashing lights. Not only does he help Lando rescue Leia and Chewie from Vader, but he boasts one of the most iconic shots in all of Empire Strikes Back, where all he does is open his eyes and stare at the camera. Sometimes to make an impression, you don't have to say a single word.
I'm one of the biggest Empire fans that you'll know. And no. And I know which shot they're talking about, but still, no. Yeah. I'm sorry. You drop Lobot 20 points, 20 spaces down, and you bring up Wicked, because that's where Wicked should have gone.
If we're gonna elevate people based on their appearance in Empire Strikes Back, how about a Mynock? Let's put a Mynock in the top 40.
Or an Ugnaught.
The space love. The space love.
Ugnaught, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, come on, right? Like that stuff's iconic. It's really fun to watch.
Are you surprised that Boba Fett's at 34?
Not really.
I'm surprised that's not at least top
20. Thought he'd be
20.
higher.
I thought it'd be at least top 20 because that we've talked about the, just the mythos. I mean, he's on screen for 2 minutes and everybody goes bonkers for him and, for decades. So, and he makes 34. That's kind of interesting.
The only thing I'll say is that if you look at the rest of that 40 to 31 list, I mean, you got Finn there, you got a whole bunch of other characters that are central to the story. So I'm fine with him being here if that's the level that you're talking here. Because, you start thinking about who's left and it's going to be key characters. So.
Oh, you think
you're
so?
Laughing, which tells
you
me.
Think so?
Oh, who's coming? Oh, my God, who's coming?
Coming in at number 30, Kit Fisto.
What?
Coming in at 30 is Kit Fisto. 29, Grand Admiral Thrawn. 28, Grogu. 27, Hera Syndulla. 26, Padme Amidala. 25, Admiral Akbar. 24, Rose Tico. 23 and 22 is Chirrut Imwe and Baze Malbus. And at 21 is Vice Admiral Holdo. The bookends on this set of 10 is kind of hilarious.
Okay, so this feels it feels a little bit like a Last Jedi apologist list, and I'm a Last Jedi fan. I like that movie, but this feels a little Last Jedi heavy to me in some ways. Hera being above Kanan is interesting. I love Hera as a character. I love Kanan as a character. I don't know how you necessarily separate the two.
It's like for me, like I love Rogue One. We all love Rogue One, and I love the character of Chirrut. I love the character of Baze. Having them this high, I don't know how. Mm-hmm. I mean, if you had told me that they were in the mid 40s or low upper 30s, I'd be like, okay, that makes sense. That's about. But they got in my head of some big characters like Boba Fett and Finn and Tarkin, and I'm just like
and Grievous
and Grievous. Yeah, it's like there's a whole stack of characters that in this group in 10.
I would say they have about as much screen time as General Grievous, and I think they're far more interesting than General Grievous. So I would rank them ahead of.
Would you put him ahead of?
Yeah, but
would you put him ahead of Finn, ahead of Boba Fett? Or Cad Bane.
Here's my problem with Finn, and I it's not that I dislike Finn, but I think that his character was absolutely just his character arc was null. It wasn't there. I don't think it was. He had the promise of being one of the best characters in Star Wars, and it just did not get fleshed out. And that
everything he needed to do, he did in Episode 7, and then they just kept running it again.
I'm not calling a value judgment on anything except for on the writers for just totally screwing that up. Now, what do you think about Padme Amidala being between, in the 20s? She was at 26, just ahead of Hera Syndulla, but right behind Admiral Akbar.
It kind of touches on what you asked earlier, which was like most important characters versus best characters, right? And like she has that whole problem with her arc, similar to Finn.
Yeah, except you got the Clone Wars. You got the Clone Wars to at least help with that character.
Yeah,
the Clone Wars also does help Grievous. So if you're throwing that to help her, you got to throw it to help him. But
I think he's a one-trick pony as well.
I know.
Grievous should be higher. Dang it! I'll stand for Grievous. Grievous should be higher.
Grievous Wicket 2024. Okay. Okay. So coming in at number 20, let the controversy begin. Coming in at number 20, C-3PO.
Okay.
19, Din Djarin, the Mandalorian.
Okay.
18, Poe Dameron. 17, Mace Windu. 16, Darth Maul. 15, K2SO. 14, Jabba the Hutt. 13, Kylo Ren. 12, R2-D2. 11, Palpatine.
So like about the top 3, the last couple that you listed, I'm like perfectly fine with where they're at.
I would put C-3PO. I'd put C-3PO at 13. And so here's my problem. They did all these things where it was like they linked 2 characters together. It's like Chirrut and Baze. Why not R2 and 3PO? But I'd be interested to. I won't read it. But I wonder if it. Well, maybe I should. C-3PO.
That doesn't make sense, though. That's
C-3PO. One of the strangest assertions made by the Phantom Menace is that the idea that the slave Anakin Skywalker would build a robot to help his enslaved mother with farm labor, and the robot would be an uptight butler. No matter, it was just a necessary excuse so C-3PO can continue its all-important role. So this is hating on Phantom Menace. They don't like the fact that Anakin Skywalker was made by C-3PO was made by Anakin Skywalker, so therefore we're going to put him at number 20.
Dinged him a few notches.
So I think he is one of the most.
Okay, so like real talk. The 2 droids, they should be in the top 10, right?
Right.
Yeah, because they're central to the story. Everything happens with them. They're so crucial to everything that happens in Star Wars. That you only need to see R2 and 3PO, and it's Star Wars.
Right. Yeah. And then like you're gonna put C-3PO below like Mace Windu,
right?
Like what's Mace Windu doing in the top 20?
Well, even Din Djarin. I'm sorry, Din Djarin has not been around long enough or done enough, except for bring us cute baby Yoda.
If you want to put Din Djarin at 21,
Star Wars story. So,
like Din Djarin ahead of Boba Fett too. Interesting.
Darth Maul feels low within the context of all of the television.
Right. I would agree with that.
I mean,
that became a nothing character, a character you thought was, again, one thing they just lost out on into one of the most interesting characters in Star Wars, thanks to the Clone Wars.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to have to stick for Papa Palpatine just for a moment. 11 sounds fine, but he really should be a top 10 character. I mean, that's the architect of everything we see through the Skywalker saga. So the fact that it doesn't even get into the top 10, I'm like, really? Who you got in there? Well, we're going to guess now?
I don't know. I kind of like seeing you guys being shocked. So I think we should just go one at a time here through the top 10 and just well, who do you think? Let me just say this: who do you think is going to be number 1? Who's going to have the top slot?
Vader.
Yeah.
Okay.
It'll be Vader number 1.
Okay.
And then I'm guessing the big three will be in the top 5.
Okay.
So Han, Luke, Leia.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing the other one is Yoda.
All right, so we're
So
saying our top 5 is going to be some order of Han, Luke, Leia, Vader, and Yoda. All right, cool.
And Vader will be 1.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
Coming in at number 10, Lando Calrissian. I don't necessarily think that Lando is a top 10 character in Star Wars.
Not over the droids.
You can at me.
Yeah.
Okay.
No. Yeah.
Number 9, Chewbacca.
That old man's mad.
Okay.
That's right.
Coming in at number 8, Ahsoka Tano. I think that's becoming a very important character in Star Wars lore, again, thanks to the Clone Wars and everything. Obviously, only the Clone Wars, but coming in at number 7, Luke Skywalker.
What?
7.
Number 7 is Luke Skywalker.
Okay.
Wow.
Here's we'll read the entry. What would Star Wars even be without his original hero? Standing there with his eyes ever towards the horizon, Luke Skywalker represents every hopeful dreamer who ever yearned for more exciting destiny. Luke is far from generic, though. Not every hero would make the same choice that he does at the end of Return of the Jedi, throwing away his lightsaber and choosing to forgive his fallen father rather than vanquish him. For all his strengths, he also has weaknesses, and in The Last Jedi, Mark Hamill movingly portrays an older Luke now wrestling with his life and legacy. In between, we get to see him kick McClunky in The Mandalorian as a Jedi Master at the top of his game. Luke Skywalker comes in many flavors, just like Star Wars itself. I think, as much as you said, this is a Last Jedi forgiveness party. I think this is the exception to that.
Yeah.
Even for Last Jedi, because they didn't like that. You had old man Luke.
Ah, man, that's irksome.
That's wrong.
You're talking about how he's like what would Star Wars be without him? And you put him 7th? Come on.
Okay, this is really weird. Okay, well, here we go. Number 6 is Rey.
Okay.
Right. Number 5, Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Hello there.
Yeah.
Number 4, Han Solo.
Okay.
Number 3, Yoda. Coming in at number 2, Darth Vader, Anakin Skywalker. And in the top spot is Leia Organa.
As number 1 favorite.
Star Wars has always been a story built on archetypes, the scoundrel, the farm boy, the grizzled wizard, but there's nothing typical about Carrie Fisher's Leia. From the moment we meet the Princess of Alderaan smuggling the Death Star plans and spitting insults at Grand Moff Tarkin, she's a new kind of heroine, a damsel in distress who happily hijacks her own rescue mission. After all, somebody's got to save your skins. What makes Leia extraordinary is her complexity. She's a princess and a general, a daughter and a mother, a lover and a warrior. She's also deeply funny, and she can deliver a one-liner that would disarm even the most unflappable Imperial officer. The original trilogy and its sequels follow her as she evolves from fiery rebel to Jedi in training to battle-hardened military leader, always anchored by Fisher's warm performance. Ultimately, Leia has endured through the decades because of what she represents, both within the galaxy and for generations of Star Wars fans. Hope. I'm not mad about that at number 1. I'm not totally mad about it. But anyway.
It feels like an intentional decision to be unique or cute. I think that we all adore Carrie Fisher and what she brought to the role, and we all know how important that role was for a generation of women. But Luke is just as important to a generation of little boys.
Well,
and I think
I'd even say Rey. Rey has a more interesting story and a more moving story than Leia's. As far as the way it was written. So, yeah.
I don't know how you can say that Luke is 7th and Leia's 1st. That's where like the disconnect comes for me. It's like we were talking about characters being linked, and those two characters were super linked, well, within the story, just in the films alone. So I would have put the two of them right next to one another, if not in the same line.
And does I mean, as much as we talked about it before, does Ahsoka Tano belong in the top 10?
Eventually she might. At this point, I'm not so sure. Put it this way, I'm more surprised as shocked, disappointed at Luke not being in the top 5 than I am Leia at number 1. Because there's a case to be made for Leia to be at number 1. There's a case for Vader to be number 1. Case for Luke to be number 1. I have no problem with that. But Luke should be in the top 5. That's like, it's like, no, that's why I'm almost kind of like going like, okay, you want to put Rey in the top 10 because of how important her arc is to the sequel trilogy or where Star Wars is going to go forward. Again, not a problem, because that's clearly where her character is going to end up at. Similar with Ahsoka. It's like, at some point, we know that Ahsoka has been important thanks to the Clone Wars. We know that it's going to have a bigger role going forward, so I'm fine with it. Yeah, that was kind of, the elements are there. It's just how they mix them up.
It's impossible to separate the actor from the role, right? In a lot of cases, and when you think about one of the reasons that people are so fond of Leia is because of Carrie, and the kind of person that she was, and the kind of ambassador she was for so many years. And I think the same thing is equally true about Mark Hamill playing Luke, and how he's just been this amazing ambassador for Star Wars for so long, and so gracious and so willing to just engage the fans and continue to have good humor and good spirit about the whole thing. Because like Aaron, like you mentioned earlier, it's like this all just came from George's. Did George ever envision this? Like this movie that he created becoming this huge thing, and it's like none of them did. But Mark and Carrie were like there, like carrying the banner in a way that like a lot of people hadn't been. Harrison Ford, cough. And Han Solo obviously wasn't nearly as important to the overall story, but when you were a kid, you liked Han or you liked Luke, and I get that whole dynamic, and so he becomes kind of necessary to be in the top 5 on that level. This is why I said the big 3 needed to be in the top 5. But I don't know, man. I love, again, I agree with what Fredo said. You can make an argument for the top 3 being Vader, Luke, and Leia
interchangeably.
Yeah, and any of the 3 of them could be the number 1, but putting Luke down at 7, I don't know, man. That's the biggest problem I have with this whole thing.
Did you? Well, and Wicket being 100. Did you think this was going to be so controversial? That's kind of fun. I just love that. It's like, these are going to be the big characters now getting into the top 20. Oh, really? Here we go. Plo Koon, or no, who was it? Kit Fisto.
Here comes Kit Fisto.
Here comes Kit Fisto, everybody.
It's like whoever. What was the horse that won the Kentucky Derby? It's like
Red Stripe. Yeah.
So.
By the way, I'm trying to think. Were there any characters that got left out that should have been on this list?
Okay, so like just going through, we were talking about the Bad Batch. Like Wrecker was the only one from the Bad Batch.
Hunter and Omega were not in there,
right?
Crosshairs.
Crosshairs.
They only have Captain Rex. I guess Captain Rex stood in for all the clones, huh?
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm looking around at my figures here.
Winning at Zeb, I don't think.
Yeah, no.
Snoke, I don't think made the 100.
No. Yeah, it's interesting. Snoke has disappeared from all old traces of the canon, or old discussions of Star Wars. You don't mention Snoke. We don't talk about Bruno, and we don't talk about Snoke.
Yeah. The Resistance choice was an interesting one, and I understand the representation and the rationale behind doing that, but like a couple of the other characters on Resistance could have probably been included, but were much more important within the context of that show. Niku, I mean, he's the MVP of that series. He cracks me up.
I have to go look at this. Did we list Qui-Gon Jinn?
Yeah,
we did. He was in there.
Okay. Yeah, he made it.
He made it at the lower end, the middle to lower end. I'm trying to think like character. I'm just not just thinking of characters. I mean, if you're having, what's his name? From Empire. See, I forgot his name already.
I don't think they included Hondo.
They did not include Hondo.
That's a good character.
I mean, he's been in a lot, and he's a guy that I always brings a smile to my face when he shows up.
Yeah, they didn't put Sev. They didn't put
Lumpy.
Yeah, we don't talk about the Christmas special.
Well, hey, all right. So, all of you out there, you need to let us know what you think about this top 100. Did any of them make you want to slam the brakes on your car and go throw something at somebody else? And if you think Wicket got hosed, because I think Wicket got hosed, he should be at least higher than General Grievous. Anyway, so yeah. So, like I said, let us know. Hit us up on Twitter, on Facebook, whatever, and until, I guess, next week. In our next episode, we're going to get into some more Marvel stuff. So I'm going to see Doctor Strange tonight. Hooray. Fredo's already seen it. We're going to try not to spoil it for Dave. Of course, I don't know how much you've already been spoiled, but
the internet is relentless.
A little bit. Right. So maybe we'll let him lead the discussion so he can talk about the things that he's been spoiled on. But until then, we will say, who dat?
Who dat?
Who dat?
And everybody have a great week.
McClunky.